you see this title where it says pamphlet, a little tagline here, and then a little watch a video button. So all of this is a part of what we call the header. So this header is specified by another division, and then we styled it using a background image. So this background image is specified from a URL. But let's say that we want to change this. We're not satisfied with this image. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and delete the URL that's inside. And let's say that we change this. And I'm just going to pick up a local image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to like // because that's like going from the main directory of the project and to a subdirectory called assets. And inside of assets, we have another subdirectory called image. And then inside of image, we have all the different images, right? So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go ahead and look into my assets folder to see what images I already have. So I have all these things available here. So I have like bg.jpg, bg2, bg3, bg4. So I'm probably just going to go with bg. So all I got to do is make sure that I type this letter by letter. So I just go back here, and after the slash that comes right after img, I just say bg and then the extension of the image. So in this case, it's a JPEG, so I say JPG. Sometimes it's also JPEG, but most of the time you'll see JPG. So yeah, I go ahead and I save that. And if I refresh this, you will see a different image instead of this beautiful looking city here. So if I refresh this, you should see the new image. There we go. Now you see this nice beautiful landscape. It has a little mystifying effect to it. And now let's go ahead and see what else we can do inside the header. So we just played around with the background image of the header. But we also want to have some content that's inside of the header, right? We don't just want to have images. We want to be able to write on top of it. So the way we do that is through something called a container. And that's what this division specifies through the class of container. So inside of this container, we are actually designating parts and parts of that header to create these things called rows. And inside of these rows, we're dividing these rows into columns. So you can think of all these different divisions of the website as a bunch of rows and columns. That's what's going on behind the scenes. What Bootstrap does is it has created something called a grid system. So it treats the entire website as a huge grid that's specified into rows and tables for you to position your content and make it look beautiful. So it's done a really nice job with this, and in order to understand how the grid works, we have to look at rows, and we have to understand this syntax of call MD6. So right below row, we have this division here that says call MD6. So we're going to do a little exercise here. So first of all, let's look at this website again real quick. I want you to now look at my mouse. I am pointing to the left side of the page, and now I am going to put my mouse all the way to the right side of the page. Now, this distance from the left side to the right side of the web page, I want you to think of this distance as a length of 12. Now, why the number 12? Well, you'll see in a second. So now, let's say that I wanted to put a column right in between this 12. Let's say I put it right in the center. So if I put it right in the center, just imagine there's an imaginary line there. So now that I've done that, what just happened? On the left side, I have a column, and on the right side I also have a column, right? But it's all part of the same row. Now inside of this row I have two columns. So the cool part about this system is that let's say that I want to put stuff that's on the left side. I can do that pretty easily by saying call MD6. Because what this does is it divides that entire length of 12 into two equal parts of 6. So then whatever I type below that will go on the left side. And if I'm not satisfied with that, then of course I can put some stuff on the right. And that's why this content here shows up on the left, because it's all done from this call MD6. It's dividing it into 2 equal parts of 6. So that's where this title comes in. So of course we want to change this. We don't want to say pamphlet. And pamphlet was this project that I was working on over the summer. But now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be changing this to Skylus Solutions, because that's what we're more curious about, right? So we have a little tagline here from my good buddy Matthew. You all know him. So what we're going to be writing here in Skylus Solutions is the following tagline: making dreams come true. All right. And later on, if we actually have an official Skylus video, we'll incorporate that with this reference here, and then we'll be able to watch it. So for now, let's just say that it's not there. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to say that we have just finished the header. So far on the website, we finished the nav bar, and we have finished the header. Now, below this header, we have what we call another container inside of something called a card. So this white portion that you see here, this is actually a card. Now, I want you to notice something here. Part of the card, a small percentage of it, is also guarding the background image. And did you see that below this, like if you look at this color right here, that means that's an empty background. So what's actually happening there? So this is actually a styling thing that the creators of Creative Tim have done for this kit. But they have also done another interesting thing where they have coded this to have a certain name. So if you go to where it says that on line 77, div class main raised, this hyphen raised is a CSS class that specifies that the card should guard a part of the background image of the header. So let's say that we don't want to guard it. Well, there is a way to do that. It's very straightforward. All you have to do is just get rid of the hyphen raised. So we just go ahead and delete that from line 77, and then we save it. You should be able to see that it will no longer guard. So it's going to reload right now. There we go. Now it no longer guards, right? Now you can see that the full image shows up, and then below that, we have the card that takes up and spans the whole background. So where is this card coming from? Well, it's pretty straightforward, because what we see here is we have another container, right? So inside of this container, we have something called a section landing. So this is actually going to be another section of the website that's inside of this container. And this main class that you see here, the main class is actually a card. And like we were mentioning before, the grid is a bunch of rows and columns, right? So we created a new row inside of this section. But this all of a sudden becomes a little bit more interesting. Because look what happened here. We have a division of call MD8, but we also have another thing to it that says call MD offset 2. So this is a little tricky to understand, but I want you to look at what's actually going on. So as you can see, this Let's Talk product and everything below that is right smack at the center. So how is this actually happening? So let me actually explain using a little bit of distance math to show you what's going on. So let's say that we start with the call MD8. So what does that mean? You remember that the distance from the left to the right is 12. So let's say that the distance from here to about right here, let's say that that's a distance of 4. Now if that's a distance of 4, that means this is a distance of 4 and this is a distance of 4. So actually it's actually a little bit bigger than what I specified, but you get the idea. So now, if you look at it that way, I want you to think of this as column D8, which means we have two of those distances of 4s, right? Because 4 times 2 is 8. So let's say that the 8 shows up somewhere here. But if we just kept a column there, then how is it that this let's talk product is right smack down in the center? There's actually a little trick to this grid system. It's called the offset tool. And what the offset tool does is it allows you to alter the position if it's not an equivalent factor of 12. And what I mean by that is you can't really divide. Technically you can. You can do 12 divided by 8, and you will definitely get an integer. You won't get an integer, but you will get a real number. You'll get a real number. You will get a decimal value. But remember that we want things to be exact here. So in order to do this with the grid format, what we have actually done is we have created something called an offset. And what the offset does is it will push in a certain direction where our column D8 is, and it will move it to a number of spaces that we specify based on the length. So in this case, we said offset 2. So what does that mean? That means if we started at 8 over here, which is the 2 4s, we now pushed it 2 this way. And by pushing it a distance here, now all of a sudden let's talk product is at 10. But we can't actually divide both columns into 10, right? We just can't do that because we have a distance of 12. It wouldn't give us an exact integer value. It would give us a decimal, and decimals don't work with the grid system. The answers always have to be finite integer values that have no repeating floats, no floats or any repeating decimals. So in that case, you can see that it takes you to the center. And that's what the let's talk product is doing in this row. So let's talk product, and then below that we have some information here. And the reason that this is also specified in the center is because this is also a part of that row, right? So whatever that formatting is, the offsetting and the column D, however it's spaced, all of that is done in the same row. So as you can see here. And we have a title that says the let's talk product, and this is the paragraph where you can write stuff. So a little thing here, let me explain what this H1 to H6 means. So I want you to think of H1 as like the largest font that you can write by default on a HTML file. And then H6 is the smallest. So H5, as you can see, is relatively smaller than the let's talk product. The let's talk product is a H2, but you could actually have something bigger than that. So let's say that we go ahead and change the let's talk product, and let's change this to something like our services. And in the description, let's go ahead and change this to a description of what Skylus is. So what is Skylus? So Skylus, of course, is an incubator for startups, right? So, but at the same time, it also gives students at the 5Cs a chance to see their ideas become actual entrepreneurial ventures. And that's the beautiful thing about it. So let's go ahead and write a little bit about that in the description. Of course, you can change this however you want. This is just something that I see Skylus as. So this is a group that makes dreams become realities. We take your idea and change it to a business with a product, customer-driven design, and a beautiful methodology of entrepreneurship. Something standard like that.